Zane had always dreamed of living somewhere peaceful. So when he found a cheap old house on the edge of a silent forest, he didn't think twice. He left the busy city behind and moved in with just a suitcase and his laptop. The house was beautiful, in an old-fashioned, slightly creepy way. Wooden floors that creaked when you walked. Tall windows with curtains that moved slightly even when there was no breeze. And deep silence at night. Too deep. But there was one thing that bothered him from the beginning. A door in the kitchen, leading to the basement. It was locked tightly with a thick iron bolt. The previous owner, a quiet old man, had only said one thing before handing him the keys. Never go down there. Just leave it alone. Zane had laughed it off. Maybe there was mold or broken stairs. But deep inside, something about the door made him uncomfortable. Week 1. The first few days were peaceful. Zane worked remotely, cooked simple meals, and explored the nearby forest trails. The silence helped him focus, but also made him feel like he was being watched. He'd often glance out the window thinking someone was there, but there was never anyone. One night, while drinking tea, he heard it. Tap, 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 soft knocks, coming from the kitchen floor, right above the basement. He paused, held his breath, then silence. He convinced himself it was nothing. Maybe pipes, maybe wood settling. But the next night, it happened again. And this time, it was followed by a faint whisper. Ow. Week 2. Zane started recording the sounds at night with his phone. Every night around 2:13 a.m., the knocking returned. Sometimes just 3 knocks, sometimes 7, always in the same pattern. He played the recording for his neighbor, an old man named Kareem. Kareem listened quietly, his hands trembling. Then he said, "That house, it belonged to a man named Fawad. He had a young daughter. No one ever saw her outside. Then one day, both of them vanished. People said he locked her in the basement. Police never found a body, but strange sounds were heard ever since." Zane's heart sank. He didn't believe in ghosts, but he couldn't ignore what was happening. That night, he dreamed of a girl, standing at the end of his bed. She had long black hair and wore a torn white dress. She didn't speak, but her eyes, they were filled with pain. When he woke up, his bedsheet had tiny muddy footprints on it. Week 3. Zane tried ignoring the door. He sealed the edges with tape. He slept with headphones on. He burned incense. He even tried praying, but the presence grew stronger. Lights flickered. Doors creaked open on their own. He heard footsteps at night, running up and down the hallways. One night, he found his name scratched into the basement door. Over and over again, something down there knew him. Something was waiting. The night it happened, Zane snapped. At exactly 2:13 a.m., he grabbed a hammer and flashlight. The air was ice cold as he walked to the door. He could feel something behind it, not just a person, something wrong. He broke the lock. The door creaked open slowly. The air inside smelled of wet earth, rot, and something metallic. He stepped down the stairs, one by one. Each one creaked louder than the last. At the bottom was a small room, walls of stone, cobwebs in every corner. In the center, a child's chair, and next to it, a small doll, with black hair, stitched eyes, and a red stain on its dress. As he picked it up, his flashlight flickered, then died. Total darkness, then a giggle, high-pitched, cold, followed by a whisper. "You broke the promise." Zane turned. The stairs were gone. The door above had vanished. In the far corner of the room, he saw her, the girl from his dreams. Long black hair, dirty white dress, eyes black as coal. She walked toward him, slowly. "You opened it. Now you stay forever." Next day, the villagers noticed the front door of Zane's house wide open. They waited, called out, no answer. Inside, everything was in place. His phone, wallet, laptop, but Zane was nowhere. Only the basement door was open, and from the depths you could hear soft breathing and a giggle. And every night, just after 3 a.m., the knocking starts again, but now it's louder. Aisha was a quiet, hardworking university student. She had recently moved into a small one-room rented apartment near her college. The place was old but affordable. The neighborhood was peaceful, and the landlord was kind, just a bit too eager to rent it out. He only said one thing before handing her the key. Don't try to move the mirror in the bedroom. It's been there a long time. Aisha found that a little odd, but she shrugged it off. Week 1. Settling in. She spent the first week setting up her room. Books on the shelf, a small table by the window. Everything was normal. But the mirror, it was strange. It was large, an old, oval mirror with a carved wooden frame. It hung on the bedroom wall, directly facing the bed. And no matter how she positioned herself, it always felt like it was watching her. She tried to ignore it. First incident. On the third night, while brushing her hair before bed, Ayesha noticed something. In the reflection, the curtains were open, but when she turned around, they were closed. She laughed awkwardly. Maybe I'm just tired. She went to sleep, but in the middle of the night she woke up. There was no sound, no movement, only a strange feeling, like someone was standing near the mirror watching her. She turned on the light. Nothing. On the fifth night, as she lay down to sleep, she heard it. A voice, soft, female, coming from the direction of the mirror. Come closer. Aisha sat up. She listened. Silence. She slowly walked toward the mirror. Her heart was racing. She stared at her reflection. It looked normal until it smiled. She hadn't smiled. She jumped back in shock. Covering the mirror. The next day, Ayesha covered the mirror with a large bed sheet. But that night, the sheet had fallen, and the mirror was uncovered. She was sure she had taped it to the wall. She reeded it tighter this time. The next morning, same thing. Now the whisper was clearer and darker. Don't hide me. I see you, even when you sleep. Scared, Ayesha called her best friend Zara to stay the night. Zara didn't believe in ghosts or spirits, but that night at exactly 2:47 a.m., Zara woke up screaming. Ayesha turned on the light. Zara was shaking. She pointed at the mirror. I saw a girl. Inside the mirror. She was screaming, scratching the glass from the inside. They both stared at the mirror. It was still. But something felt wrong. The antique shop. The next day, they visited an old antique shop in town. They showed a photo of the mirror to the shopkeeper, an old man with cloudy eyes. He looked at the photo and went pale. He slowly said, this mirror came from a house that burned down 20 years ago. A girl died in that fire. Some say her soul got trapped in the mirror. It was passed from house to house, always causing whispers, nightmares, and worse. The final night. Ayesha decided she couldn't stay anymore. She packed her bags and prepared to leave the next morning. But that night, the mirror was not quiet. At exactly 3 a.m., the room turned freezing cold. The mirror shook violently on the wall. The whisper became a scream. You look too long. Then the mirror cracked. Thin black lines spread across the glass like veins. A face appeared inside it, the girl Zara had seen. Burned, crying, eyes wide with hatred. The lights in the room flickered and died. Ayesha ran from the apartment. The aftermath. The next morning, Ayesha returned with her uncle and the landlord. The mirror was gone. Only the wooden frame remained. On the wall, in what looked like black ash, were the words, one leaves, another stays. No one ever found the mirror again. But the apartment remained empty after that. And late at night, neighbors say, if you walk near the building, you might hear a girl's voice whisper from the second floor window, come closer. I want to see you. The mirror in room 206. Ali was a traveling sales agent. He used to go from city to city, staying in different hotels every week. His job was tiring, and he was used to being alone. But he had never felt fear, not until he entered that town. One evening, Ali reached a small, quiet town just before sunset. The streets were empty. Shops were closed. Even the wind felt strange, as if the whole place was holding its breath. He searched for a hotel and found one at the end of a lonely road. It was called the Hazel Inn, a very old building with wooden walls, dusty windows, and a flickering signboard. He walked inside. The reception was dimly lit. Behind the counter stood a pale, thin woman. She looked at him without smiling. Ali asked for a room. She handed him an old brass key and said, "Room 206 is free. People don't usually choose it, but it's clean." Ali was too tired to ask questions. He took the key and walked up the creaking stairs. The hallway smelled like old wood and wet carpet. Room 206 was at the very end of the hall. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. It was a simple room, a wooden bed, a small table, a dusty chair near the window, and an old fan spinning slowly. But one thing stood out more than anything: a huge mirror, covering the entire wall in front of the bed. The mirror looked new and clean, too clean for such an old room. Ali put his bag down and lay on the bed. He closed his eyes to rest. But his mind didn't relax. Something didn't feel right. His eyes opened again and again, always looking at that mirror. It was as if someone or something was watching from the other side. Later that night, around 2:30 a.m., Ali got up to drink some water. He walked past the mirror and stopped. His reflection blinked after he did. He stared at it, shocked. Then the reflection smiled, but Ali's own face was still serious. A chill ran down his back. He turned on all the lights and searched the room. He even checked behind the mirror. There was nothing. Still, he could feel something was wrong. The next morning, Ali went down to the reception. The same woman was there, sitting silently. Ali asked her, "Is there anything strange about room 206? The woman didn't answer at first. Then she looked at him and spoke quietly. "Many years ago, a man named Harris stayed in that room. He believed the mirror showed him his past life. He stopped sleeping. He kept staring into the mirror for hours, and one night he died. No wounds, no marks. He was just gone." Ali was disturbed. He thought about leaving the hotel, but it was late and there was no transport available. He had no choice but to stay one more night. That evening, the air felt even colder. The wind outside howled through the windows. Ali locked the door, closed the curtains, and tried to sleep. But again, he kept waking up. Every time, the mirror was the first thing his eyes looked for. At exactly 3 a.m., he opened his eyes. He didn't know why. The room was silent. The fan had stopped. He looked at the mirror. This time, his reflection was gone. He sat up in bed, confused. The mirror now showed the room, but it was completely empty. Then, slowly, a shadow appeared. A man in old, torn clothes, black, empty eyes, standing where Ali should have been in the reflection. The man began walking toward the bed, toward Ali. Ali turned to look behind him. Nothing. No one was there. But in the mirror, the man was getting closer. Ali panicked. He jumped out of bed. Suddenly, crack! The mirror cracked from the inside. Not a small crack, a huge web-like break spread across the glass. Ali screamed and ran out of the room. He rushed down the hallway, breathing heavily. The hotel felt empty. No lights, no sounds, not even the sound of the wind. He reached the lobby. It was dark. The front door was locked. He turned around and saw a mirror behind the reception desk. In the mirror, Harris was standing right behind him, smiling. Ali turned around. Nothing was there. But in the mirror, Harris didn't go away. The next morning, the hotel was back to normal. New staff stood at the counter. Guests checked in and out. Room 206 was locked. When asked about Ali, no one remembered him. But sometimes, a new guest gets room 206. And sometimes they say, "I saw someone else in the mirror last night, but when I looked behind me, there was no one there." They say some places don't want to be lived in, not because of broken walls or dusty floors, but because they remember, and what they remember, they never let go of. This is the story of Ali, a young photographer, and the apartment that should have stayed empty. Ali had just moved to Lahore from Karachi. He was young, ambitious, and always chasing the perfect picture. So when he found a top-floor apartment in a quiet, forgotten building, for dirt cheap, he didn't ask too many questions. The landlord, an anxious man with trembling hands, gave only one warning: Don't step outside your room after midnight. Ali thought it was a joke. The first few nights were quiet, but then, just past midnight, he heard it. Soft, deliberate knocking. Not loud, but enough to freeze your breath. He peeked through the peephole, no one, but on the floor, muddy footprints leading toward the kitchen. That night, he set up his DSLR camera to record, and when he reviewed the footage the next morning, he saw something he couldn't explain. At 12:08 a.m., the mirror in the hallway moved. Not the frame, the reflection. It rippled like water, and then a pale, lifeless hand reached out of it, touched the floor, and vanished. Ali demanded answers. The landlord hesitated, then said, "A girl named Sadaf used to live there. She jumped from that hallway window a year ago. People say she never really left, just moved into the mirror." Ali tried to leave the next morning, but the building wouldn't let him. Every time he walked out, he'd find himself back inside, the same living room, the same clock ticking backwards. He was trapped, and every time he looked in the mirror, his reflection seemed just a little off, smiling when he wasn't. One night he heard crying from the bathroom. He opened the door and saw a girl sitting in a tub filled with dark water, her back turned, shoulders shaking. He whispered, "Are you okay?" She turned, her face rotten, eyes hollow, black liquid streaming down her cheeks. Ali locked the door and collapsed, but the crying didn't stop. Now it was coming from the mirror. Desperate, Ali searched the storage closet. There he found it, an old notebook, stained with dry blood. It belonged to Sadaf. She wrote about the thing in the mirror, about how it fed on loneliness and fear, about how she tried to break the mirror, but it always healed. Her last line, "Whoever sees her becomes her." That night, the mirror cracked, and from inside, Ali's reflection smiled at him. But he wasn't smiling. He grabbed a chair and smashed the mirror. Glass flew everywhere. But his reflection didn't break. It stood whole, grinning. Everything went black. The next morning, a new sign appeared outside the building. "Apartment available, top floor, cheap rent." And Mr. Zubair told the next visitor, "It's a good place. Just don't look in the mirror after midnight." Urdu narrator. Some rooms are not empty. They're just waiting. Waiting for footsteps, for breath, for someone they remember. This is the story of Hamza, a man trying to escape his past only to walk straight into it. Hamza had just gone through a painful divorce. He left the busy city life behind and moved to a quiet hill town. All he wanted was peace and isolation. He found a small guest house at the edge of the forest. The caretaker there, an old man named Babar, greeted him quietly. "You can stay here as long as you like, but don't try to open the last door in the hallway. It's locked for a reason." Hamza didn't ask questions. He just nodded and went to his room. But something about that last door stayed in his mind. At exactly 3 a.m. each night, Hamza would wake up. He didn't know why, until he started hearing it. 3 soft knocks at his door. When he opened it, no one. But at the far end of the hallway, the light would flicker. And from behind that last door, a faint creaking sound. On the 4th night, curiosity got the better of him. He walked toward the locked door. He placed his ear against it and heard something. A whisper, calling his name. "Hamza, is that you?" He stepped back, heart pounding. The doorknob moved, but the door didn't open until the next night. This time, the door was slightly open. Hamza pushed it gently and looked inside. It was dark, cold, dusty. In the middle of the room was an old wooden rocking chair, and it was moving. As soon as Hamza stepped in, the door shut behind him. He turned quickly, but it was locked. He looked at the mirror in front of him and saw her, a woman, pale, hollow eyes standing behind him. When he turned around, she was gone, but the chair kept rocking. Hamza couldn't ignore it anymore. The next morning, he went to Babar and asked about the room. Who was she? What's going on in that room? Her name was Fariha. She checked in over 40 years ago. She was waiting for someone who promised to come back, but he never did. One night, she ended her life in that room, right above that chair. Hamza froze. He didn't know anyone named Fariha. Did he? That night, he searched the drawer beside his bed. Inside, an old photo, a picture of him standing next to a woman, Fariha. There was also a letter with it. Fariha's voice, "You promised to come back, but time forgot you. I didn't." He dropped the letter. His hands were shaking. Suddenly, memories started to come back. Memories that weren't from this life. A train station. A promise, a goodbye, and the face of Fariha, smiling, waiting. The final night, the door was wide open. Hamza walked in slowly. The rocking chair had stopped. He whispered, "Hamza, Fariha?" And she answered, "You finally came back. Now we can be together, forever." He turned around and saw her standing there, her face now twisted, her mouth stretched in a scream. Hamza collapsed. The next morning, Babar stood outside the guest house. A new traveler approached. "Is there a room available?" "Yes. Just don't open the last door in the hallway." The traveler looked up at the window. At the top floor, Hamza was standing there, still, silent, watching. Behind him, the rocking chair moved. Some rooms never forget, some promises never die, and some spirits, they wait forever.